Today I'm going to give a little overview and demonstration of this Macintosh Plus, as well as a little overview of what it's like to program on this machine. So I'll start out with a little bit of the history. This is the Macintosh Plus. This was introduced in 1986 by Apple Computer. This is the third Macintosh in the Macintosh line. Now, some of you looking at the front of this machine may notice that the front does not look like a Macintosh Plus. Up in the front left corner where the Apple logo is, the Macintosh Plus usually says Macintosh Plus right next to the Apple logo. But this computer is a little bit of a special one. Back when Macintosh Plus came out, Apple actually sold an upgrade kit where you could take either of the two earlier Macintosh models, buy the upgrade kit, and the upgrade kit included a new motherboard, a new 800K floppy drive, a new back panel, as well as a new keyboard, because the original two Macintosh models had keyboards that did not include the numeric pad, but the Macintosh Plus keyboard did include the numeric pad. So the keyboard you got with the upgrade kit had a keyboard that included the numeric number pad. So once you got that upgrade kit, you would just take the back off your old Macintosh, remove the motherboard and the floppy drive, install the new motherboard and floppy drive, and put the new back on, and plug in the new keyboard, and you were good to go. You had a Macintosh Plus. I will turn the machine around in a little bit and show you the back of it so you can see that it is in fact a Macintosh Plus. The Macintosh Plus used SIM modules for memory, so you could have from either 1 megabyte or 4 megabytes of memory. And I don't think you could have in-between numbers, because the only way to let the computer know what memory you had installed was to cut a resistor on the motherboard. So in the default state, the machine came with 1 megabyte of RAM, and the resistor was connected. And if you wanted to upgrade that to 4 megabytes, you would put 4 1 megabyte SIMs in and cut the resistor, and then you have your 4 megabytes of RAM. The processor is a Motorola 68K processor. I believe it operates at 7 or 8 megahertz. I'm not 100% sure of that. The screen is black and white only, so I'll show you that in a little bit. But first I'm going to turn this around and give you a little overview of what's on the back. So, on the back of the machine, you can see that it is in fact a Macintosh Plus, and it has been upgraded to the 4 megabytes of memory. Down on the bottom here we have a speaker port, mouse port. This is a parallel port for a external, or not a parallel port rather, that is an external floppy disk drive port, so you could have an external floppy drive if you wanted. This over here is a SCSI port for a hard drive, and here we have two serial ports, one for the printer and one for the network. This is our power connector, our switch, just some dirt there. We have, this is for a battery if you wanted to have battery backup. I don't believe this machine kept time, but if you set options in the control panel and wanted those options to remain set after you turn the computer off, you had to have a battery in here. We have some vents here, as well as a vent underneath this handle here. This machine does not have a fan in it, so the vents assist in keeping it cool, although they are apparently not as effective as they should have been, because this machine still suffers from some overheating problems, which present in the form of cold solder joints. And one of the symptoms of these cold solder joints is that the video will intermittently go out, so the screen will just go blank, and you can test and see if cold solder joints are the problem, or if you smack the machine on the side and the screen comes back, then you have cold solder joints. So I did have this issue with this machine, and I went through and fixed all the cold solder joints, so this machine is now working fine. So I'm going to turn this back around and give you a little demonstration of the software and a little overview of what it's like to program on this machine. Okay, so let's turn this on. This machine takes a bit longer to asked for a disk than its predecessors, and that's probably due to both the larger memory size as well as initializing the SCSI bus in the back. So once it comes up, it asks for a disk. Let's see what boot disks we have here. So we booted into System Software 4. This is before Apple changed the name to Mac OS. As you can see, we have the menu bar at the top, which is still existent in Mac OS today. I have some folders here on the disk. This installer is if you have an external hard drive, you can use this to install the system on the hard drive. But I don't have one, so we'll just ignore that for now. I also have a system folder. Some different system utilities here. For our menus, down here on the Apple menu we have About, and we also have some of our system utilities such as the control panel, where you can change your desktop pattern. And if you want to make your own, you can just fill in the pixels over here and see what it would look like on the screen. We have our network setup, which is either connected or disconnected. You can set our speaker volume. We can tell the computer whether we're using a mouse or a tablet. Set our double click speed, our cursor blinking, the key repeat rate, the delay until repeat, and our RAM cache if we want to use one. And that's about all the system options you get for this version of Mac OS, or in this case system software. So we have our different options here. Our file menu, we can eject the disk if we want. We have other menus here: edit, view, and special. So I'll give you a little demonstration of Microsoft Excel, which would be a software you could use on here. The first version of Microsoft Excel actually was only for the Mac. The Windows version didn't come out until Excel version 2. This is Excel version 1. Notice that when I insert a disk, it appears on the desktop, which still happens in Mac OS today. We have Microsoft Excel. We have some samples here. We have a switcher. This is at the time when this version of Macintosh system software was released. It was only single tasking. So this switcher allowed a form of multitasking to be used on the Macintosh. So when you open this up, you could open several different programs, and then you would have another menu that you could switch in between different programs if you wanted to switch in between them. Because you'll see how once I open a program, my regular desktop goes away and I can't get back to the Finder without exiting from Excel first, without using the switcher. So, as you can see, we're now in Microsoft Excel, and if you look behind this window, you see my disks are no longer on the desktop, because now this is the Excel background and not the Finder desktop. Notice that the redraw on here is not particularly fast. That's due to the lack of hardware acceleration. The 6800 or 68,000 or other processor has to do all of the graphics handling, and at the speed it's running at, it's not particularly easy for it. This was even worse on Apple's earlier computer, the Apple Lisa, which ran the processor at only 5 megahertz and involved a lot of waiting while running and loading programs, despite the fact that you almost had to use a hard disk on that computer. But anyway, we'll go through a little bit of Excel here. This works basically similar to Excel today. You type in your numbers in the box. And one interesting thing to note is that on the keyboard, on the main keyboard, you have a return key, which Apple still uses today. And on the numeric keypad, you have an enter key. If I type in a number and press enter, it accepts it but does not go down to the next line. If I type in a number and press return, it automatically goes down to the next line. I haven't actually tried this to see if this is still the case in Excel today, but it's an interesting feature of Excel version 1. And you can still use formulas or sum there. You can also define formulas. I believe this has macros. Yes, it has a macro menu as well if you want to make a macro. There are different options here, different data tools, and format our cells and columns and everything. So formulas, and the standard edit menu, and our file menu. See, this is version 1.03 from 1986. I believe the Windows version, which was version 2, didn't come out until 87 or 88. You also got help here in the About box. Notice we have 99% free memory. And if I close this window, see, I'm still in the Excel program. I can't get my disks or anything. To get back to the desktop, I actually have to quit Excel. In order to get back to my desktop. And you'll notice now that it loaded Finder off of the Excel program disk. So we have a system folder on this disk as well. Which has Finder and System in it. And you notice that my desktop background is different. That's because it loaded the system off the Excel disk, since it had to remove Finder from memory in order to run Excel. When I quit Excel, it loads Finder back off the Excel disk, and so now we're in the Excel version of Finder, which I'm not sure if this is the same version or not. Version 5.386. So I believe that's the same version. But my desktop background is different, and you actually could end up with a different version of the Finder depending on what you're doing. You notice that my system disk that was up here is now gone. If I want to reload that, I have to eject Excel and in order to get my system tools back. So it's a very interesting way of working. How you can only run one program at a time, and whatever program you run kicks Finder out of memory and then has to reload when you're done. I'll go in and show a little bit of programming now. So, this is Turbo Pascal. This is what I use for programming on this computer. This is a little demonstration program I wrote to show you just what you can do. We'll load Turbo Pascal here. You see now it asks for the system disk, which or what it thinks is the system disk, which is what it loaded the system off of, which was Excel. So I have to give it Excel so it can load some more system utilities as it's loading here. So I'll pick up once I have everything loaded. Okay, so I am now in Turbo Pascal. I'm going to choose my Pascal file. Go to open. So, for those of you who have never used Pascal, I'll give a little bit of overview of how a Pascal file is laid out. At the top you have your program name, and these brackets here denote comments. These here are compiler directives. This one is important. This is the resource. So if you have a resource file, and those of you who have ever done Windows programming will know what I'm talking about. A resource file includes such things as dialog layouts, icons, images. You can include basically anything your program needs. Well, maybe not anything, but a lot of the extra things like images, icons, dialogues, forms, different things like that you can include in a resource file instead of having separate files for each one. So this resource file here will include, I believe it includes a dialog as well as the icons used in the program. So that you have your compiler directives. This is the analogous to the include statement. So this is all the units that we are including to use in this program. We have our constants. And you notice that each section has a header. So we have a header for constants, and then we have to list all our constants here. Then we have a header for variables, and these are global variables. And then we list our variable and the type that it is. Then we have our functions and procedures. So a procedure is a function that returns nothing. So we have procedure, the name of the procedure, and what parameters it takes. Then variables for the procedure, a begin, the code for the procedure, and the end. So this is just a clear window, so it just erases the window, and then draw grow icon means draw the scroll bars and this little icon down here. This is the grow icon for changing the size of the window. So when you erase the window, it erases everything in the window, and you have to redraw this down here. That's what this method here does. Another thing that's interesting to note about this version of Macintosh system software is that it has that it's not preemptive. So for example, if I go up here to a menu and click on the menu, the program that's running has to notice that I clicked on the menu and display the menu. Even though these are, like this one is a system menu, the system doesn't actually display the menu. The program that's running has to display the menu. So that's about this. So when I click on here and open a program such as the calculator, which of course now it's going to ask for system again to load it. When I click on the calculator from this menu, Turbo Pascal has to notice that I clicked on calculator and then tell the system to load the calculator. So that's what this procedure, here does. You notice that you clicked on the menu, it saves the screen, and then it loads the application that you clicked on, and then it restores the screen to what it was before you drew the desk accessory over it. That's what these are called, by the way. These things on this menu, they're called desk accessories. They're not full independent programs, they're just small little programs that are part of the system, and they're programs that you can run while you're running another regular program, which you can't do with regular programs. So I couldn't run, say, Excel and Turbo Pascal at the same time. You can't do that. But I can run Turbo Pascal and a desk accessory at the same time. So this procedure here handles menu clicks. I won't go through all the little details there. My point here is that it's kind of interesting to program for, since you have to do so much that in later versions the system takes care of. have to do a lot of things on your own here that the system would take care of in later versions. So I guess that's about all I wanted to cover for this. Just procedures and stuff. See, once you get down to the bottom, yes. Okay, so once you have all your procedures and functions and everything, this is your main program entry point. Just begin. Then we call our like initialize. We have this is just a loop that repeats handling events. And then once someone closes it, then we're finished. And then we clean up to close everything down and exit. So I'll give you a little demonstration of this program. So you see this icon that you see here, that is included in the resource file. Of course, now it's asking for more system stuff. So this is just a little program that I wrote for a demonstration. As you can see, I call it Super Comptometer, since I like old calculators. And I've laid out columns here like the comptometer keyboard. And so you enter your numbers like you would on a full keyboard comptometer. And your results appear up here. So, up on the Apple menu we have an About box. And it has to load this from the program. So just a little overview, and this dialog as well as this icon will also be included in the resource file. And that name is just a name I use whenever I write programs, just for fun. As you can see, it does take a while to redraw everything, since it has to redraw every time you overlay a window. But that's about it for this demonstration. I hope you enjoyed this overview and a little look into what it's like to program on this computer. And thank you for watching.